even though
Same
they
thing
kind
with
of
JJ, right? It's like
yeah,
you can obviously the picks are awful, and he deserves blame for the picks,
yeah.
especially the Reagor pick. I give him more crap for the Reagor pick than the JJ pick.
I give him more crap for the JJ pick because, you know, PK had a red flag. They weren't going to consider him until day 3. So that the injury part, I think fans get caught up in the.
All right, we see him in the green room. That means he's ready to jump aboard with us. Here he comes, Dave Zangaro from NBC Sports, Philadelphia. You tired of hanging around with McMullen already? The season's just getting underway. But you spent all summer with him. You must be tired of hanging around with him.
Oh, that goes without saying. I can answer that one for Dave.
No, it's we do have a long way to go here.
That's true.
We're at the beginning of this. It's funny though. You spend so much time around the other people on the beat. You get like, I'm not there yet, but like halfway through the season, you notice like all the question quirks and and I have them too. Like we all have our ways we ask questions differently, or like I'm guilty of it as well. Like we'll become fixated on one element of the game, like we can't get over it. Those things are always fun.
Yeah, and you're right. Dave taking a shot at me. I'm
not a shot at everyone. That's not a shot at you.
Exactly. Feel free to take a shot at me. I'm not in with you guys, but they don't like the way I ask questions because I'm too wordy. I got killed yesterday here on the stream, but that's okay. I do it my way.
Yeah, we all have. Dave's right. We all have our idiosyncrasies. So, and I want to talk to you about one of Howie's idiosyncrasies because I think this is phenomenal. And I don't think I asked you a practice. I asked Zach, and Zach's great with minutia. So are you. So I want to ask you this. I do not recall a conditional de-escalating pick in the history of the NFL. That was brilliant wording. That was brilliant wording from Howie Roseman. But it is what it is.
I've never seen it. Normally, a conditional pick can become a better pick, not a worse pick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels like, I mean, this is just such a Jalen Reagor deserving language. Like it's already like they're already expecting him to fail to live up to whatever expectations they have for him. It's insane. Yeah. Why would they work? Obviously, like the wording and some of this stuff, and we don't know the conditions on the pick, but like a lot of times, obviously it looks better for the Eagles because they get to call it a higher pick than it might be. It's weird, though. I can't remember ever seeing it.
Well, does it just come down to how he gave Adam Schefter? I believe Adam was first. How he gave Adam Schefter the news, because if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he would have called it a 5, a conditional 5 that would turn into a 4.
Well, they still could have.
Yeah.
They announced the trade first, like officially.
And that's a good point. I have to look at their wording. I didn't look at their wording because they did. Yeah, it was I was obsessed by the wording.
So was I.
Because when I saw Adam break it, I said, "Oh my God, the Eagles got a potential 3rd round pick for Jalen Reagor," and at that point, I'm giving Howie Roseman all the credit in the world. Turns out
it's going the other way.
Yeah. And by the way, he still got something for Jalen Reagor, so I give him some plaudits, but he also drafted him. And even though
same thing with JJ, right? It's like you can obviously the picks are awful, and he deserves blame for the picks.
Yeah,
especially the Reagor pick. I give him more crap for the Reagor pick than the JJ pick.
I give him more crap for the JJ pick because, you know, PK had a red flag. They weren't going to consider him until day 3. So that the injury part, I think fans get caught up in DK's a better player, but there were injury concerns. Whereas the Eagles just thought Justin Jefferson, and by the way, they're not the only team, thought he was just a slot receiver. The Vikings thought he was a slot receiver. They started him in the slot, had an injury, and then he had to play outside, and they're like, oh, look at this. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But in the case of Jalen Reagor, the coaching staff kind of pointed. It's like that Spider-Man meme. You ever see them pointing at each other? Coaching staff pointing at Howie Roseman pointing at the coaching staff. Do you think Doug and those guys wanted Jalen Reagor, or do you think it was a Howie pick?
I think the coaching staff wanted the explosiveness, and I think the Eagles overvalued what they thought they saw in Jalen Reagor in that area. And it was a mistake. It was just, I don't care that they thought Jefferson was just a slot. He was a better player, and they reached on Reagor. And that's what made the pick so tough, and I think that's what made Reagor's life here so difficult, is the Eagles went against conventional wisdom. And if you go against conventional, and sometimes there's a positive to that, but if you go against it and you fall on your face, it looks even worse. And the DK Metcalf thing is true. They didn't have him, they weren't going to draft him because they were concerned about the medical. Obviously, that ended up not being an issue, and he's a great player. But I fault them less for that. Fault Howie less for that. Maybe not the organization, because they screwed that up. But fault Howie less for that than that video of the Vikings draft room is going to be infamous here forever.
Yeah.
And it was, and everyone in this city, it's a tough spot when it reminded me of the Marcus Smith pick in a way, where it's like they drafted him. Everyone went, what are you doing? And it starts, and I'm not saying you have to draft who your fans want you to draft, but if you do that and the guy doesn't find immediate success, it's going to make it really tough.
You better get that kind right. All right, I'm going to ask you to go right here. I got an under-over for you, DZ. Last year, the Philadelphia Eagles had 7 different guys return kicks for them. They only had 2 guys return punts, one of which was Jalen Reagor, who returned 31 out of 33 last year. I set the over-under at 3.5 individuals who will return punts for the Philadelphia Eagles this year, which means you got to go double the amount from last year to get to the over. You go over or under 3.5 guys returning punts.
And just punts.
Just punts. There will be a follow-up question. You can probably guess what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's under. Yeah. I'm trying to count how many guys they even have.
Yeah, they don't have 3.5 guys.
Yeah.
Well, 3.5 guys don't exist, but I don't know who's going to return punts. I mean, you can funny? Elevate Britt and Kobe, but
I was just going through I spent my morning leafing through all my notes, finding every player who took a rep at punt and kick return. And they have some options, I think Quez has a good shot to be the kick returner.
Oof, he wasn't good at it last year.
He wasn't good at it. But I think that's something he could be good at, theoretically. He wasn't good at it. It was worse than Reagor last year as a kick returner. But I think that's something he could be good at. They have Gainwell. I wouldn't use him as a punt returner based on what I saw in practice. I didn't think he was very smooth. Covey,
he can catch it.
You have a roster spot. You only have 4 receivers. He's smooth. And just watching them field punts this summer, there was no one better at the catch point. He has that down, and he was explosive at Utah. So I would use a roster spot on him. I would find a way to make him the returner, I think.
Want to go to the other trade, CJ Gardner-Johnson. From this perspective, I've been talking about this, Dave. I think everybody lauded that trade. I thought it was a good trade. The Eagles got younger, more athletic. However, we're talking about a guy who's played 80 snaps in total at safety in the NFL, coming essentially 11 days before the start of the regular season. The Eagles just went with a guy who's played 7 years in a similar scheme, and Chauncey Tart had a difficult time learning the terminology and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, CJ Gardner-Johnson's going to show up and be ready to go week 1 in Detroit. Any concern we're going to see K'Von Wallace out there as a starting safety in week 1?
It's a little concerning. Honestly, if he's not ready, I mean, we don't know yet because he just got here.
Yeah.
Next week will really tell us, and it'll tell the Eagles if he's ready to play in a game ready to start a game. If he's not, I'd bring up Anthony Harris for a game.
But here's the problem with that, Dave. And we just got done talking about it. I think the Eagles should have kept Anthony Harris as an insurance policy for early in the season. Mm-hmm. Now, the problem is he's vested, so you have that week 1 guarantee.
I get it. You got to win a game.
Yeah, exactly. And they already paid him $1 million of the $2.5 million. So essentially, you got to pay him $1.5 million, and it guarantees you a win pretty much. Maybe I'm overstating it because Detroit should be somewhat improved. But
you're not buying the Hard Knocks?
Yeah. Jody, more so than me, is not buying the Hard Knocks.
I like them. I'm rooting for them. They got me. They hooked me in as a guy who root for the Lions on week that it has nothing to do with other teams that I root for, but they stink. They stunk.
$1.5 million, Dave, insurance policy. Who cares?
I would keep
the guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So getting back to CJ, though, I'm less concerned about the position switch than I am about the 11 days he has to get caught up. If they were
same here. Yeah.
If they traded for him in the middle of the summer, I would have, that's fine.
Yeah.
But just learning a defense in 11 days is a lot. And then you add on the position switch it's not nothing. Like it is, he's going to be playing a different position, but I think his skill set does translate to that position. I think he'll be an effective safety in what I'm assuming Gannon wants to use him for. But the limited time is the bigger concern.
I'm with you. Week 8, I don't think there'll be a problem at all. Mm-hmm. But if there's a blown coverage in week 1, because you threw him in the deep end and he doesn't know the defense, I mean, I don't know. I would have kept Anthony Harris.
And as much as, the Eagles are high on Marcus Epps, and I am too, I think he's going to be a good player. This is a new role for him too. So now you're putting a lot on his shoulders individually and from a defense perspective, because I think a lot of this is like a lot of catching up. The new guy is going to fall on Marcus Epps as his running mate out there. And that's putting a lot on a young guy's shoulders.
All right, Dave, I asked this of Mike Gill, the first guest we had on today. Want to get your take on it. Either he's not, and no, I got to state this way. Miles Sanders active for the game, goes out, tweaks his leg after the first carry. They're down to 2 running backs. How are they going to split those carries the rest of the game between Gainwell and Scott?
I think in a situation where Miles is injured, I think Boston becomes the feature back. And that's not to say they won't use Gainwell a lot. I just think if you have to rely on one player to take a bulk of the carries, it's probably Boston. We've seen him do that, right? We've seen him at times, too often, honestly, because Miles has been hurt quite a bit, but we've seen him shoulder that load. And I think he's better suited for, if he needs to take 15, 17 carries in the game. I think Boston's better suited for that. I'd like to see more consistency from Gainwell, not just in his play, but in his usage. Last year, there were games where he was like getting way too much, and there were games he was inactive for a game. I'd like to see that, kind of steady out a little bit, because I think he can be an effective player. He didn't have a great camp, but I think there's something there. I just think he needs to be more consistent personally, and the offense has to be more consistent with finding his role.
Any concerns since we went down the running back route? Eagles are going to sign LaMichael Pirine on the practice squad. Kennedy Brooks back. We've talked about having that bigger presence in the backfield. I think it was Miami, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 in the preseason game. Kenny Gainwell got nowhere. That was one of the surprises. He didn't have a good camp day, but they were using him as the short yardage back pretty consistently. He doesn't seem like a short yardage back to me. Is that just we know Jalen Hurts is really our short yardage back? Type of thing?
I think it can be a combination of Hurts. They think Miles can do it. Now, obviously, the caveat with Miles is, is he going to be on the field? Boston is a pretty good short yardage back. He's
goal line touchdowns.
Goal line guy. I mean, he's a little bowling ball in there. You don't have to be Jordan Howard size running back to be good in short yardage. You can be, and Boston's like so stout. He's built. He's not bad in those short yardage spots. So I think he could eventually vulture some of those carries too.
All right. You guys were there for the entire training camp. And the way it was reported by both you two gentlemen and everyone else when the Eagles were running their offense, it was Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown and then to somebody else. And then Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown, and then he'd work in someone else. And then Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown again. That those guys were on.
Well, there was a lot of Dallas Goedert as well. So it was A.J. and Dallas.
Okay. But
and then by the end of camp, it was a lot of Devontae.
Yeah.
That
picks up a little bit.
That's where I'm getting at. Nice, easy, even spread over the top 3 week 1. Is it going to be the top 2? Will it be AJ and then everybody else? How do you think if they are going to? Because John continues to tell me that the Eagles want to lessen the choices of Jalen. They don't want him to go 4 deep in his reads. 1, 2, get the ball the hell out of there. Is it going to be the AJ Brown show in Detroit week 1?
Well, I do think it's going to change week to week. It's going to be a fantasy football player's nightmare because I think a lot of it's going to be matchup driven. And the thing I'm kind of most curious about is how much we'll see AJ Brown in the slot. I would use him there quite a bit. He's been really good in that position over his career. And I know that I might get the sense he likes playing outside, but if you're able to kind of move those guys around a little bit, he presents a real mismatch problem inside for smaller slot corners. And I like the idea of opening up Quez's speed on the outside at times too. So I know that's not answering your question, but that's something that's kind of been in the back of my mind.
I saw it. You asked Avonte that yesterday.
Yeah.
And by the way,
Avonte
was great because we asked him a bunch of questions about the mirroring of safety and slot. He's like, they're 2 completely different positions. I don't know what he's talking about. And then you asked him about the size differences between different slot receivers, and Avonte said, it doesn't matter. But I think it does matter. It does matter. It matters. So I'll go there with you from the Eagles' perspective. I'm starting to think we might see more of Zach Pascal than people think for this reason, Dave. The Eagles are a good team, and they're going to be leading in the fourth quarter, I think, more often than not. And if they're leading and they're playing 4-minute offense, I want Zach Pascal on the field. I don't want Quez Watkins on the field. So is that a little bit counterintuitive to want Zach Pascal on the field?
No, he really impressed me this camp.
Yeah, had a good camp.
He kind of got this reputation of like he's here because he's Nick's guy.
Well, I think he is here because he was Nick's guy.
Yeah,
but he played well.
Yeah, I mean he's more than that though. He's not a great player. He's not a Pro Bowl caliber player, but he's got a decent resume coming here. He's caught a lot of balls in the league, and I was impressed by just his athleticism. You think of him as being kind of a sticks mover. He was pretty athletic in training camp. I think he can also be a weapon in the red zone. He's got 15 touchdown catches in his career, which is pretty high of a percentage of his overall targets and catches. I mean, so he's been a weapon there for the Colts. I think he can probably do that here too. I think he's going to play a decent amount. I still think Quez is going to have more snaps than him, but I see your point. I think they will find ways to get him on the field because they can trust him.
All right. This is going to sound like nitpicking, probably because it is. If you listen to Birds 365, you know I was lobbying for James Bradberry to become an Eagle while he was still with the Giants. When the word was out that the Giants were probably going to cut him, I said, this guy'd be perfect. Howie, get advanced work, get it. And boom, he got it done. And John told me at one point during the preseason, he was thinking James Bradberry might be the most impressive Eagle, that he was having the best camp. We haven't seen him in a couple weeks. We didn't see him at all in the preseason in any of the games. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I know. I still care about the games. Is he going to be as good as we think he can be because he showed and D'd up A.J. Brown in practice? How good a season is James Bradberry looking at, DZ?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about James Bradberry. Not even a little bit. I know he missed some time with an injury, but it was a soft tissue injury, and they were being cautious with a veteran player who was playing at a really high level. So, it doesn't bother me that a veteran missed preseason games in practice. I think he'll be ready to go week 1. I think he's going to have a good season.
Good to hear.
And really, I mean, those 3 corners together, it's a really impressive trio. It is.
It is.
Yeah. We don't talk about Avante a lot. I know we talked about him here a little bit. I mean, his jump last year was massive jump, and he was out of position the year before. We knew that. So seeing him back there, and and having CJ Gardner-Johnson will help him too. A player like that who can sometimes, and Avante, I think, took a little exception to it yesterday because he's like, I can cover big guys too, and he can, but that'll take some of that off his plate at times, having a safety who can man up against some bigger players who, let's be honest, Avante's 5'9", and it's a tougher matchup problem for him.
Yeah, well, he struggled as an outside corner for that reason.
Yeah,
because he was 5'9". But you're right. Want to ship to the waiver wire because the Eagles did claim Ian Book. They wanted to claim Kellen Mond, but lost out to Cleveland. Boy, I don't see the upside there, Dave. To lose, I mean, not that Davion Taylor's anything great, but you got to create that roster spot because of the timing and 12 o'clock versus 4 o'clock. Maybe they get it back to the practice squad today. We'll see how that goes. Nick spoke in Miami and said, I'm fine with 2 quarterbacks. And in my career, I've had 2 more than 3 on the 53-man. Howie always seems to want that third guy. Is there value in Ian Book on this roster?
I haven't seen it from him necessarily. I know he had a good college career, obviously, and he doesn't strike me as a great developmental prospect.
No, I don't see the upside. That's like Kellen Mond. That would have been all right. He was terrible, but at least he's got the traits, and maybe if you unlock something.
Ian Book's 6 foot, 200 pounds. Like he's, and the curious thing is they kept Reed Sinnett. Sorry, it was pronounced Sinnett.
Yeah,
that's going to take a while to get used to.
Yeah,
they kept him on the practice squad, so you have 4 quarterbacks, which is kind of strange. Maybe they just want Reed to know what it felt like to be Carson Strong during training camp.
Well, you got to restock the shelves at the quarterback factory.
Quarterback factory took a hit this summer.
Yeah, a little bit, huh?
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think they wanted Reed to be their 3rd string quarterback on the roster, and he kind of played his way out of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is funny because one of the big reasons they liked him so much last year was because he tore up the preseason when he was a Dolphin. So after the first preseason game, when Nick Sirianni said he thought he was feeling some nerves and some pressure, I was like, what are you talking about? The dude came out here a year ago and made this team because he was so good in the preseason. It didn't make any sense to me, and it still doesn't.
Yeah.
All right. We talked about wide receiver and potential returners, and right now they are a little light there. We're suggesting the chance that someone's going to get elevated for the practice squad to fill that role with Reagor leaving. They probably will. But if they don't, 5th wide receiver, Grant Calcaterra, will they just split him out and give him a chance to play some wide receiver? Because you need a 5th wide receiver. You get 4 wide out lineups. They get 4 wide receivers at one point. Who's the 5th in case they have an injury?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be Calcaterra. I'd assume. I think they're going to have 5 on the roster.
Could be Britton Covey because you need the
Covey.
returner. So,
yeah. But if you need, and it's fun. I always kind of go through these contingency plans or what their contingency plans might be in my head. We've got to figure out the emergency quarterback this year because
well, yeah, now being booked, it's not as big as a concern.
no,
Although,
I mean it is because you're not going to keep 3 active on game
You're not
day.
going to activate.
no, yeah, but I meant it the next week, because people were saying,
but
what if you got 2, and then you would and now you have 4 with
Who do you think is going to be the emergency in-game quarterback? Not Greg Ward anymore.
Yeah, I know. That's my thinking. How
about the 6'6", 330-pound Lane Johnson?
I don't think it'll be Lane.
Now, Tyree Jackson would be obvious if he was healthy, but
I think they might at that point go to like a wildcat and just have, maybe Gainwell. He's a lefty. Throw a curveball.
There you go. Quarterback in high school, I believe. Kenny Gainwell. So.
It's weird to see. He's one of the few lefties on the team. You just watch guys tossing around the football. So not many lefty quarterbacks in the league. That'd be fun.
That's true. Throw a curveball.
Is it just Tua in the league?
Yeah. There might be some back, but Tua was the only starter. We're used to having Greg Ward, Braxton Miller, even back in the day. We're used to having this ex-quarterback that could potentially be no more. Although if Tyree Jackson does make it back, they can go that route. But contingencies are always fun. Have you noticed anybody doing long snapping? Now we're getting deep in the weeds. Because I always, Matt Collins used to do it, every once in a while. I'll probably notice that more that we're in regular season mode. Every once in a while, though.
Yeah, I haven't noticed anyone working on it during the summer. I don't know who it would be. And everyone always asks, like, couldn't it just be the center? And it's like, no, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's a different motion. For a long time, it was Brent Selleck, right? He was the emergency. And that was when Dorenbos got hurt and Selleck came in.
You had the crisis. And they were doing tryouts on the field.
No, they weren't. They weren't doing tryouts on the field. That was just Michael Kendrick starting to snap the ball on the sideline for no reason.
On its own, taking initiative. Good for Michael Kendrick.
Yeah. That was Michael Kendricks be Michael Kendricks.
Dave, let me, again, I've answered several of these questions where they're kind of hypotheticals, which I'm just trying to get your read on a particular situation. How many percentage of snaps that Nakobe Dean will play week 1? We know that White and certainly Edwards are going to get the majority of the snaps, but no Davion Taylor. I know he took some first-team snaps during preseason. See what that did for him. Nakobe, not really much at all. They looked like they wanted to bring him along slowly. How ready do you think he is for game 1? Did he just get a couple of fill-in snaps here or there? Is he going to be part of a package? How much do you think Dean plays week 1 against Detroit?
I think he'll be ready. I don't think he had a bad camp. I think he had a quiet camp. And I think the reason I have to pump the brakes on him is just because the guys in front of him were so good all summer. I don't think it was Nakobe's fault, but TJ Edwards might have been their best player in camp, and Kaiser White was very, very good. So I didn't think both of them would have been as good as they were in camp. So,
same here.
And I'm still bullish on Nakobe Dean. I have to walk back. I think I said at one point he'd play the most snaps of any linebacker. Well, that's not going to happen. TJ is too good. Kaiser is too good. I think they'll find ways to get him involved. He's good at some things that are important. He's probably the best blitzer of those 3. I think he'll find his way on the field. I don't think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to necessarily take those guys off the field for long periods of time to get Nakobe out there, but I think he'll play a little bit. And he'll play on teams.
Yeah, and not that it's any surprise, but Marcus Epps probably in trouble today because he admitted TJ Edwards is going to wear the green dots. You got to keep that secret. Nobody knew that.
Oh, he gave up a competitive advantage?
You mean that middle linebacker
on him.
Make the calls, John?
Yeah, shocking. Shocking, but you can't give that away. At the Zangaro NBCS, follow him on Twitter, NBCSports.com. Read him there. Last one for me, Dave. If there was one guy that you thought should have made this team, not even who you picked. We picked the exact same 53, by the way, according to Bo. We had the exact same. So you got 50 right, in theory. If there's one guy you thought, Dave Zangaro, not who you thought the Eagles were going to keep, that should have made this team, was there anybody in that sort of category?
There are two that come to mind. So I'll just hedge and give you both. Deion Kane and Jack Anderson did enough to make the team. They both deserve to make the team. I'm more surprised that Jack Anderson didn't than I am Deion Kane.
Same here. I blame Stout for losing this thing. We were one behind Jimmy Kempsey.
Yeah,
both had Jack Anderson.
And I get why they kept Josh Sills in hindsight, because he's more of a tackle guard, whereas Anderson's more of a guard center. And you look at what they have, and you don't need a third string center. And you have other guards, so I get it. But Jack Anderson can play. I would have been surprised if he wasn't claimed. So I thought he did enough to make this team and deserved to make the team. But he's on another squad, so good for him.
Well, then will your guy, Deion Kane, who deserved to make the team, will he return a punt this year? Did he return one punt in practice all summer long?
No.
Yeah, he's not a punt returner. That was my problem with Deion Kane. Just if you're going to be a fifth or a sixth, and they weren't going to keep six, you got to play special teams. You got to do something. So you got to be a returner.
I will say he's good. He's a good guy to have on the practice squad, because if you have an injury, he can play receiver.
Yeah.
You know? Like he's the most of the three receivers they have on the practice squad. Like he's
by far.
The most ready to step in and take offensive snaps if you ever need him.
Yeah, by far the best actual receiver. Yeah.
All right, Dave, if we don't get you back on before the first game, how many touchdowns did the Eagles win by?
Touchdown and a half.
Oh,
okay,
that's
double digits. You see
solid win.
Still.
It's a solid win.
Yeah.
So that means CJ's not blowing coverage.
No.
Well, he could blow coverage.
Oh, throw him in the deep end of the pool. He'll swim just fine. Not a problem.
Well, I'm saying that I don't think the Lions are going to be very good. So.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Dave, good stuff. Always a pleasure, my friend. Oh, I got one last question for you. If they put you in the middle of the set and you got Tyrann Hatcher to your left and Barrett to your right, it's going to be peaks and valleys anyway you slice it. You're going to be the little guy in the middle. Do you lean more toward Tyrann, or do you lean more toward Barrett? Because Taryn's taller and she's not supposed to be tall. Barrett, former NFL lineman, if you're smaller than him. Oh, that's okay. Hey, I'm not Barrett. But which way do you lean? Do you go one way or the other, or do you stay right in the middle?
I take a step forward.
There you go. Smart. Lean. Get in closer to that camera. Zangaro, you're the best. Thank you much for coming on board today. We'll get you again soon.
All right. Take care, guys.